that there are gender testimonies, things written by women,
Right.
which tell us about the position of women in times past.
Yes.
Yeah, so Elizabeth Fox Genovese, yes,
Right.
she's an American.
Right, she's a U.S. scholar.
Right. And then we have now the epilogue by Rex Nettleford, Our Debt to History.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nettleford himself was a student of Elsevier,
Mm-hmm.
maybe almost the same age as Elsevier.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote this part as a tribute to the Bryan, but also to establish the relevance of what we have been doing in Caribbean history.
Mm-hmm.
So this brings us right up to 1998.
Yes, and it's really fascinating. I mean, because one of the things that you notice about these essays, especially the ones in Part 2 on gender, is the importance of sources and historiography and methods, right, in writing about Caribbean history, all issues that were taken up in Elsa Gavaya's body of work.
She certainly started it.
Yes, yes. And as you mentioned earlier, since this publication, there have been 14 other lectures.
I made a list of the sort of things that are there.
Right.
National Heroes in Post-Colonial Jamaica.
There you go. Yes.
Maroon Struggles by Alvin Thompson. The Garifuna, Central America. Luis Reyes' Fortifications of Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
There's one on African Jamaican culture. And then Kyle Campbell gave this one Education in the Greater Antilles.
Mm.
So the post-1998 lectures
have been
a little bit more varied.
Yeah. Which brings me to my final question then, Professor Bryan. Thinking about the collection we have here and where the Elsa Gavaya lecture, the sort of mark of developments in Caribbean history, has gone since 1998. Are there elements in the historiography of the Caribbean that you think still warrant close study, that have not been given the sort of attention that they deserve from scholars?
Yes. I certainly think that Caribbean historians have barely come into the 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was doing that work on late 19th century Jamaica, I realized I was on the frontier.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from Gisela Eisner's 1830 to 1930.
Which is an economic history principle, yeah.
There's very little secondary material.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 1880 to 1902. It is a bit spotty. I mean, you'll have things on the Jamaicans in World War I, sometimes postgraduate students have done something like World War II. There are a few things on, Garvey is pretty well covered now,
mm-hmm.
thanks to Robert Hill's work. But the period after independence, I know historians tend to avoid the contemporary period. But in many ways, we're doing an injustice to students if we don't do stuff on the post-1962 period. When I retired from campus, most of my students have been born in the 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, 1962 is really
ancient history. Yes, right.
So something needs to be done there.
Yes, good.
Yeah. So there are chronologies, and there are also themes within that.
Yes.
And so on. Because actually, in spite of everything, lots of things have changed.
Yes.
I mean, Jamaica has some of a cultural revolution.
Yes.
And we have tended to depend too much on what the social scientists are doing. And they come with a sort of specific orientation,
Right.
which might ignore some of the empirical data,
Yes.
which will lead to a more accurate analysis of what's happening.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think we should move into the 20th century.
Yes, well, that's a very good note for us to wrap up on, and a very important one too. And clearly there is space for new generations of historians and histories as well, especially as we expand in with new sources.
Talk about your generation. You know.
Yeah, well, well, I guess the burden falls on our shoulders. I'll just end by making mention to the listeners and viewers that of course, the Elsevier lecture on which this collection is based, as we've said, still continues, and the next one will be taking place on the 1st of April, 2014, here on the UWI Mona campus at 5:30 p.m. at the Philip Sherlock Center, and the presenter is Dr. Diana Payton from Newcastle University in the UK, and the title of her lecture is Small Charges, Law and the Regulation of Conduct in the Post-Slavery Caribbean. So that should be quite interesting and further proof that the dynamics of Caribbean society continue and demand study and historians. Yeah.
There's not been all that much done on law.
There has not.
There has been, right? But,
but
it's not
right.
Not nearly enough.
Yes.
Because we have a tension, I think, between the public law, which is based on the British system, and demands of our own situation.
Correct. Yes. that require. Yes. Yeah. Thanks so much, Professor Bryan.
Thank you very much.
Yes.